Братан, а ты че меня поебало? Посмотри. Стен не осталось.
Ukrainian troops have pulled back from positions near 5 settlements in Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Vladislav Voloshin, spokesperson for Ukraine's Southern Defense Forces, told Suspiln. We have completely withdrawn from Uspanivka and Novomykolaivka. Very fierce fighting continues for Yablukove and 3 or 4 other locations. The defensive operation is ongoing, and the contact line remains quite dynamic, Voloshin said. The statement follows comments made by Valentin Manko, commander of Ukraine's assault forces, who said the Ukrainian military had halted a Russian advance in eastern Zaporizhzhia Oblast and cleared the villages of Solodke and Rivnopilia. Manko added that fighting was still ongoing near the villages of Poltavka and Uspanivka, where Russian forces were pushing toward the city of Huliaipole. Voloshin echoed Manko's remarks, saying that Russian forces are attempting to advance northeast of Huliaipole in an effort to cut off the supply route from the village of Pokrovske in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Later in the day, Ukraine's commander-in-chief Oleksandr Syrsky said that Russian troops have managed to seize 3 settlements amid fierce fighting in the region. The aggressor has increased activity in Zaporizhzhia Oblast, using weather conditions, dense fog, to infiltrate between our positions, Syrsky said on Telegram, adding that the situation has significantly worsened on the Oleksandrivka and Huliaipole axes, where the enemy, taking advantage of numerical superiority. In recent days, Russian troops have stepped up combat operations in the Orikhiv and Huliaipole sectors of the front line. Up to 50 clashes are taking place each day, with continued attempts at assaults and infiltrations, Voloshin added. The enemy is conducting intense fire strikes on our positions. In fact, they have destroyed all existing fortifications and shelters, forcing us to withdraw from certain positions in several settlements, either to the flanks or deeper into our defensive lines, Voloshin said. Russian troops are attempting to break into Ukrainian positions and continue their advance, according to Voloshin. The situation is quite difficult, the spokesperson said. Russia is exploiting the weather to advance in small groups, moving on foot or using motorcycles. At the same time, the adverse weather prevents Ukrainian forces from deploying drones against them, Voloshin said. Moscow currently occupies about 70% of Zaporizhzhia Oblast, but the regional capital, Zaporizhzhia, remains under Ukrainian control. Meanwhile, Russian troops continue advancing in the neighboring Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk oblasts. One of their key targets in recent months has been the city of Pokrovsk in Donetsk Oblast. And President Volodymyr Zelensky described the situation facing Ukrainian troops in Pokrovsk and Zaporizhzhia Oblast as difficult. Most of the attention is now on the Pokrovsky direction and Zaporizhzhia region, where the Russians are increasing the number and scale of assaults, he said in a post on social media. The situation there is difficult, and in particular due to weather conditions that favor attacks. But we continue to destroy the occupier, and I thank each of our units, each soldier who is involved in protecting Ukrainian positions. The Ukrainian military destroyed a North Korean Type 75 rocket launcher in the Pokrovsk direction. The missile system was detected and destroyed by drones of the Predators of the Heights unit of the 59th Separate Assault Brigade. The occupiers tried to hide the Type 75 in a trench, covering it with boards and branches. The occupants thought to surprise us with their new toy, but we have seen the worst of such things, said the Ukrainian military. This 107mm rocket system, which North Korea is supplying to the Russian army, is a copy of the Chinese Type 63 MLRS, which is designated Type 75 in the DPRK. The system is capable of firing fragmentation and cluster munitions at a distance of up to 8.6 kilometers. Russian troops are also trying to install it on vehicles to increase mobility and speed of deployment in the right areas. This is the inflicted damage by the recent Ukrainian overnight attack on Tuapse, which reportedly included naval and regular drones and missiles. Britain has suspended the exchange of intelligence with the United States, regarding Caribbean vessels suspected of involvement in drug trafficking. The reason is the country's unwillingness to be indirectly implicated in subsequent strikes against them, CNN reports. Britain, which controls several territories in the Caribbean, has for many years assisted the U.S. in identifying vessels suspected of transporting drugs. This enabled the U.S. Coast Guard to intercept them. However, in September, the U.S. began striking these boats, and Britain became concerned that its intelligence might be used to select targets. Sources told the outlet that, in Britain's view, the U.S. strikes on the boats, which have already killed 76 people, constitute a violation of international law. CNN reports that Britain put the intelligence sharing with the U.S. on pause in October. After the start of his second presidential term, U.S. President Donald Trump stated that combating drugs was one of his top priorities. He named Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro as the main drug lord. Trump noted that the amount of drugs entering by sea had fallen to less than 5% of last year's level. According to him, this result was achieved through enhanced monitoring and military operations in the Gulf of Mexico. Recently, the U.S. president announced plans for land-based operations against drug trafficking in Venezuela. In this way, Trump confirmed his intentions to strike against drug trafficking in the Caribbean. The Venezuelan authorities are already preparing a response in case of a U.S. ground operation. They plan to organize a guerrilla war, Reuters reports. According to the outlet, the government of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro has settled on two strategies in the event the U.S. launches an attack. One of them is prolonged resistance. Sources told the outlet that prolonged resistance would involve guerrilla defense. Venezuela plans to deploy small military units at more than 280 locations across the country. They would carry out sabotage and other actions against U.S. forces. The other strategy, according to Reuters interlocutors, involves using intelligence and armed supporters of the ruling party to spark unrest in the streets of the capital, Caracas, in order to make Venezuela ungovernable for foreign forces. Unnamed sources told journalists that the two strategies would complement each other in the event of a U.S. attack. "We wouldn't last 2 hours in a conventional war," one source said. Another Reuters source stressed that the country is not prepared or professionalized for a conflict, despite government statements to the contrary. "We're not ready to face one of the world's most powerful and well-trained armies," he added. Since September, the U.S. has begun striking vessels near Venezuelan waters that could be transporting drugs. By October, Western media reported that the U.S. was preparing a larger operation to overthrow Nicolas Maduro's regime. Specifically, at the end of October, the Wall Street Journal, citing sources, reported that the U.S. was preparing strikes against Venezuela. Against this backdrop, U.S. President Donald Trump assured that he has no plans to strike Venezuela.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. He's doing the job every day.